Hiya and welcome to the next part of the Messerschmitt Bf109 build video. So the first thing I'm going to do is mix up the number 65 paint, which goes to the underside and the majority of the side on the aircraft. One thing I'm going to do is remove these items that I put in as blockers, so they've more or less done their job, not too much bleed through. I can sort that out a bit later on. Yeah, so number 65, I'm going to mix this up. I'm going to mix this up with a little bit of acrylic thinner rather than water, simply because it's just a slightly different, I think the paint would probably benefit from that. So I've added in a few drops of acrylic thinner to the paint. It's not looking too bad. I'm hoping it will be okay. And we'll start the paint process. Obviously you don't want it too thick because you don't want it obscuring any detail. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap out the brush. I'm going to use a different brush. I'm going to use a wide, flat. The reason being, I think that will give me better coverage. And seeing as this particular part of the aircraft is all one colour, I think that is going to be a benefit. And you can see the benefit of having undercoated with white. At this stage. Oh my god! Right, okay. So obviously putting on the pale blue colour for the underneath was absolutely no problem. I've done that. I've done the sides, as you can see. You can also see it looks like I've gone mad with the masking tape, but there is a reason for that, and that is because I intend to start painting the top side. Now, I'm going to turn around and say straight from the off that masking this up ready to paint the splinter camouflage, which was quite common on German Luftwaffe aircraft during World War II, has been an absolute pain in the backside. I do have something like a set of grasping hands, I suppose you call them, which I had 30 seconds ago. So I do have something like this. But even trying to secure the plane to this and then put the masking tape on was just an absolute pain in the backside. So yeah, be warned, this is fiddly. And obviously if you've put the underside bits on, like this here, the pitot tube, the flap overextending braces or whatever you want to call them, then yeah, you're going to be worried about potentially breaking those off. But I've masked it off as far as I want to take it for now to put on the grey, which is number 31 within the Humbrol range. Let's get on with that. Let's open this pot up and see what sort of state the paint is in, shall we? Oh, I've just shaken it. It doesn't look like it's mixed at all. Right, excellent. So that's what it looks like. I'm going to have to pop in some acrylic thinner to try and sort that out. Oh joy. So hopefully I've brought this back to some semblance of use. Now because I'm brush painting the model, so what I need to do is brush away from the masking tape. This is to prevent or try and prevent as much as possible bleed going underneath the masking tape into an area that you don't want it. It's not so much of an issue at this stage because we've still got to put the second coat on of the darker green after we've done this, or the next coat of darker green after we've done this, but you still don't want too much bleed through. Okie dokie then, right, so the next paint colour is 117, and this is another paint which is, well, as you can see, it's pretty much a disaster in there. I'm hoping that I can, no. Okay, so this is a nightmare because this is pretty dry. This is completely knackered. I don't think I've got another 117 because I don't think this colour came with the Focke-Wulf, but if I tip this out, you can see it's pretty dead, which is a shame. But there you go. Let's maybe I can find a Tamiya, not a Tamiya, but a Citadel acrylic that will match. So I don't have a colour that matches exactly, but I do have Caliban green and Warpstone glow. So as you can see, they're two different colours, but I'm kind of hoping that in mixing them together, it's going to give me, as best as possible, the colour match that I need, and I think that's probably it. So 1 part Caliban green and 2 parts Warpstone glow. Right, we got our paint mixed up, and my Messerschmitt is all marked up. Referencing the box art just to make sure. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the area in front of the cockpit, and literally I'm using a wide flat brush. This is an artist brush that I got from a shop called The Works in the UK, and they sell cheap brushes. You can get a pack for £2. I normally pick up the extra small detail brushes that they do. They do 4 in a pack for £2, or this particular brush with 2 other large brushes, which were these two, were £2. These two I will use for scenery painting, but they are good quality, reasonable quality brushes. So, and as you can see, I'm drawing away from, where possible, from the line of the tape, and this is to ensure that there's minimum bleed through on the line. It's decal time. So just bring you up to speed, I have glossed the model with my usual suspect, which is the Citadel art coat. I've glued on the nose cone, and I've added in some gunmetal silver paint to the machine gun ports on the top side and the propeller attachment points in the spinner and in the nose where the cannon is. So that's what I've done for now. The decals, make sure you've got what you need to hand. Now I use microset and microsol. So blue one goes on first, put the red one on afterwards. I have a brush which I have marked with a bit of masking tape, and this brush is only used for the microset and microsol. A couple of cotton buds, and I've got some kitchen towel to help. Now the cotton buds and the kitchen towel are just for soaking up any excess moisture when you're putting the decals on. So going for placement, this kit is quite good because there's a lot of panel lining here, which is great for reference for the decals when they go on. So I'm going to start with this one, this cross, which will go on first here and then mirrored on the other side. Now the crosses for this particular bit are numbered 4 on the decal sheet. Oops. So once your decal is ready, just pop it on like so, and then using a cotton bud I just roll over it to try and avoid moving it like I just did then. But if that does happen, you can just pop on a little bit more. Get it in back into place like so. And then just roll over it to remove any excess, and just do the same with all the other decals. Now once your decals have had a little time to dry, you can then go over them with some micro sol, and this will help them to conform into any recesses, mould lines, or not mould lines but panel lines. Decals have been put on and they've been given plenty of time to dry. I'm not at this moment in time going to seal them in. I'm going to try something slightly different and go straight into putting it in the pin wash, which I have started to do now. I don't actually have a specific pin wash that I purchased. I just use for it, I just use Citadel's Nun oil to give me the darkening in the panel lines and the recesses. I've found that it works just fine, and if I'm careful with how I apply it, then it generally doesn't cause too much of an issue. So let's get that. So what I tend to do is try and have just a little bit on my brush, and then you just, as I'm sure you've seen in plenty of other videos, touch it to the area that you want the pin wash to settle in. And I tend to just wipe off any excess with my finger, and I do it in the direction of the airflow when I'm doing aircraft, so that it forms appropriate streaks. And that's basically doing a pin wash. So I'm going to get on with that, and then once I've done that, I shall pop on the landing gear and a couple of other bits and pieces. Where are we up to? Right, okay, so I have done some dry brushing and a little bit of weathering on the Messerschmitt. I have sealed in the decals with the second coat of gloss varnish, and I have made a single pass at the moment over with the anti-shine matte varnish that I use from Army Painter. I do need to make a second pass. I will do that once this has had a reasonable amount of time to cure, a couple of hours maybe. My next little job is to try and get the canopy glass painted. Now, I have struggled masking this up, and I have looked at these, and I don't know if you can see this, but there is a tiny little chunk taken out of the front of the canopy glass there, and then on the rear piece there's a tiny little chunk taken out of the canopy glass on there. I don't know if the camera will pick that up, but I don't know if that was a fault in the moulding process, because it's quite odd, the positioning for both parts. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to hand paint the frame on these. So they're going to get a base coat of Caliban green, and then from there I will mix up a batch, a very tiny batch of the dark emeraldy green that I used for the splinter camouflage. In other news, I have finished painting the pilot, and the pilot has literally been painted according to some photos that I've seen of Luftwaffe pilots of around about the era. So he's had a dark brown flying jacket, black flying boots with a fur trim. The jacket's had a fur trim around the collar, a buff coloured harness for his parachute, and a life vest. One of the issues that I had is the exhaust manifolds that go into the side of the engine. There was a lot of excess plastic on the moulding, which made it difficult, or it's making it difficult to put them into the location slot. But also, I don't know if you can still see it, but there's still a slight bend in this one. and it kind of almost had an S-bend in it, which meant that having clipped it from the sprue, I had to quite forcefully bend it into a straight shape, and it's still not 100%. So I'm hoping that once I glue this in, I'll be using some super glue. Once it's glued in, I can keep it aligned without any issues. But these will literally just locate into these slots just here. So I'm going to put some super glue in here, and hopefully it will be enough to keep the exhaust manifolds in place. So you need to make sure that you get them around the right way as well. Okay, so that's the first one in. And that's not too bad, so I'll do the second one and that'll be great. I am going to add the canopy on now, and I'm going to use a product that I bought recently. Now I must admit I originally bought it because I thought it was another tube of super glue gel, but it's actually Gorilla Glue clear glue. So Gorilla Glue Clear is this product. I'm going to use this on the canopy and see how that works out. I have used it for a couple of bits and pieces on other projects, but so far I've not used it on a plastic model kit. So in much the same way that you would apply super glue, I am literally just going to put a small amount on the frame. Now obviously you wouldn't necessarily use super glue on clear parts because it has a habit of making them fog up, but this clear glue I'm hoping will be perfect, and it's what I'm going to use to secure the canopy. Now you may recall that earlier in the video I was worried about a hole in this rear canopy glass. Subsequently looking at the instructions, that actually turns out to be the pilot hole for the antenna mount, for the antenna wire. So this doesn't instantly stick like super glue, so you will need to let it go off before adding in the next pieces, but hopefully it will work fine. Okay then, right, not happy. So the little things you can see here are the antenna pole, which is located at the back of the cockpit on the Messerschmitt. Now it was like this on the sprue. The problem is I don't know if I may have broken it trying to get something else off the sprue, or if it was broken in the box. But again, you know, small fiddly parts on this kit, exceptionally fiddly parts on this kit. However, what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and mock up something using, because it does just seem to be a flat tapered piece So what I'm going to do is use some sprue, and I'll do the old trick of melting it over a flame and then stretching it out. That will be my antenna wire, but also I'll use the slightly thicker ends as they taper down towards the thin, to hopefully create a new antenna pole to use behind the cockpit glass. Right, here we go. So I've got my little tea light ready, and basically you just hold your plastic over the flame until it becomes soft enough to bend. Don't put it in the flame because you'll burn it, but yeah, just hold it above the flame, and as you can see it's starting to bend, and then just pull it out like that. And then hold it in position while it dries. And then that will hopefully give me my antenna wire, but also I'm going to use these slightly thicker ends to try and create a piece to be the antenna mount. So there you can see the black one is the old piece and the blue is the new one I fashioned. So literally I just trimmed it, guesstimated the approximate length it should have been, and then what I did was I just used the flat of a blade to just basically trim it flat to make it slimmer in front profile, and then I will attach that to the back of the cockpit. Hey, right, okay, so I did try and do this on camera, but it was just so fiddly and it was being a right pain in the arse. But I have placed on the antenna and the antenna wire. As you can see, I will now paint that black. The next thing I will do is I just have to pop on the undercarriage flaps, and then she is complete. That's it, she's finished, so bear with me. So once again I am using some super glue gel, and I am literally going to dab on some super glue at the contact points. And then making sure that I have the right flap, they will just go on. In position like so. And the last little bit, I am just going to paint the antenna mount and antenna wire black. Hey, right, so I've taken the Schmitt about as far as I want to take it. I've obviously glued on the flaps for the undercarriage, and I have added the antenna mount and the antenna wire. Couple of things about the kit. Whilst it went together mostly beautifully without too many issues, my biggest problem is how brittle the plastic was. So I snapped the nose cone trying to sand some sprue gates away. I snapped both the tail plane struts on the rear, trying to maneuver those into position and get them into position correctly. And as you know, the antenna mount I had to replace because I found it broken on the sprue. I don't know whether that was me trying to take something off the sprue at some other time, or whether it was like that in the box when I got it. But there you go, we fashioned something new. which seems to fit okay. Other than that, she was fine. The most difficult bit I had with this was the masking for the camouflage. So getting the masking tape to lay in the right position on the wings up the fuselage was probably the most difficult part about it. But other than that, it's a nice little kit. It went together quite well. Apart from the few little issues that I've pointed out, I enjoyed the build. All right, take care. Join me for the next one. Bye.